Just going over today how I speed tune, for want of a better phrase, my anti-healing for Gear Raid 1. So it's not really a run through on Gear Raid 1, but more how I use anti-healing in it. Okay, I'll see you in the video. Hello and welcome, I'm Mystical, this is Mystical Gaming. We're in Watcher of Realms today, and more precisely, we're in Gear Raid 1. And I just wanted to have a little play around and show people what I'm using as my anti-healing. A lot of people have got an anti-healing person, so they have to use those. It doesn't really matter which one you use. I use Lasseer, so this example's on him. And it's more to do with how I use him within Gear Raid 1. I don't use him for damage, so he's not built for damage. He is built to make sure he can put his anti-healing down to counteract the boss's healing mechanic. So as the boss does his healing mechanic, he should be there doing his countercast to make sure that that is kept away, or the boss's healing is kept to a minimum on the mobs. So I just put down my first two DPS. It's the same as most other places, actually start up. I then put down Laseer because I need him to start just finishing off that rage, so he's ready to go for when the boss actually casts his healing. So he's doing up his DPS, that's no great shakes. And as soon as we get some more mobs, I'll cast off Dolores and Demi, and they are the DPS. I'm not using Demi as an anti-healing, she is there to do DPS, not anti-healing. So when the boss does his cast of anti-healing, we've got Laseer ready, and about the 30%-ish mark, because Laseer has an animation to go through. There's his animation, boom, and now the anti-healing is down. So you've got to make sure that you're aware that he needs to cast it early because there is that animation to go through as well. So I'm now putting Hollow down, and this is just going to aid in making sure that Laseer has enough rage to keep motoring around. I've left the other side without a healer because I can cope for a little bit. So I now get a healer down the other side, that's safe. But I just want to make sure that Laseer has enough rage coming back through so we can keep him ticking over. Here's the boss coming down with his, we're at 90, there we go, we've done. So we can cast now at the right time, we can get our anti-healing down before the boss starts doing his big heals on things. And that is essentially it for me. It makes the fight doable, I suppose, more than anything else. I don't think it's an easy fight to do. It is big on your DPS, or heavy DPS race, I found it. So I just want to make sure that I can help myself by doing the minimum amount of DPS I need to do and keep motoring away with this anti-healing. So Laseer's there ready to go, and we can get that off before the boss does his healing. There we are again, that's another boss heal counteracted. I mean, the ones further back we're not going to get, but they're not by the wall, they're not subjected to our DPS really. I do use a tank because my DPS isn't good enough to actually counter the get him dead before the wall goes down, so I do need to use a tank in my run. As you can see, Laseer's pretty much done before the boss even cast. So we're just waiting on the boss's cast, and then we do our anti-heal, and that will be us down. Anti-heal on the 3 or 4 mobs that are just there. The mobs get killed off a lot quicker because they're now not getting healed, which just makes your life a lot easier. I know Zealous has got this book which uses his ultimate to reduce the... It's not a good mechanic. I much prefer this anti-healing mechanic to do the job, I'd say right, or better I suppose. But here he is ready again, and we're keeping that turn cycle going. We're making sure that Laseer has enough rage and he produces enough rage to make sure that when the boss does his healing, Laseer's there for the anti-healing, and that's all he's there for. I wouldn't concern yourself with trying to build him for rage because he's not built, or sorry, damage, because he's not built for it at all. I mean, we'll have a look at his gear afterwards, and his gear isn't good. It's not good for damage anyway, it's good for this because it works. So we get his anti-heal out there in time to actually stop everyone from being healed up by the boss, and that is all he's actually there for. I think you get drawn into the fact that he's an AoE mage, so you build him for damage as you would an AoE mage. We're not using him as an AoE mage, we are using him solely to cast the anti-heal at the right time for the boss. So his ultimate's already up, we're not using it yet, we're waiting for the bosses to come down to that 30% mark, we trigger it off, he does his little animation and it should already be done. I missed it there slightly, I think the boss got off a few heals, but it's no great biggie. And now we can trigger off Hollow to help build his rage up. I mean, he's a little bit short, I might be able to do it without Hollow, but it becomes a little trickier. And I don't have the DPS to give myself enough respite between it. So he's already up and running, and that was mostly due to Hollow, and we can trigger off his ultimate. Now the anti-heal's down, and we're at what, 44, 45 mobs dead out of the 59. So we're doing pretty well. We do expect the wall to go down. That would not survive. My DPS isn't that strong by any stretch of the imagination, and my gear's not good enough for it. So I just worry about Dolores and Demi, triggering those off as soon as I can. I've got a Buzo there. She's been the recent fusion, so I thought I'd give her a whirl. And now the boss is coming down, Lasseer is ready, anti-heal goes out, no one gets healed by it. It mitigates this boss skill brilliantly, it really does. The only other thing with Lasseer in his placement is he's got to be slightly tanky as well. So you can't build him as a glass cannon because he's taking damage, and he takes quite a bit of damage, to be honest. So you've got to watch out for that. You've got to make sure that he's not too squishy for the environment that he's in. And also, artifacts that give him a boost, as long as his HP is high, aren't probably the best either, because his HP is not always that high. Sometimes it's very, very low. So you've got to watch out for that and make sure the healing he gets is actually working well enough for him. So where are we now? 53 out of the 59 already done. This is pretty much done and dusted. I'm feeling quietly confident. There's not much of the wall left, and Lasseer's there now just for the final bits of the hill. You can even see the hill mechanic now because the boss is there. You can actually get to see the anti-heal debuff go on, whereas before on the other mobs you can't really see it. It just sort of comes up and goes away on a haze. But we can actually see it now with only the boss left. We can see that when it's on and when it's not on, and when the boss is casting. So the boss is what, sub 50% now. He's got another cast coming out, but we're a little way off, but I don't think it's a major concern. It's only the boss to actually get down now, and I don't see him getting past my tank. So as long as I get him done at some point, I don't think it will really be an issue. But we can keep it on for as long as possible, and we can just make our lives a little bit easier. But that is all he's there for. Now you do want to make sure that when you're doing this, you check up on how long your anti-heal lasts for, and how long you need it to last for, that sort of thing. Now you want to make sure that your anti-healer gets that front row in range, which is what I do with Lasseer. That's why he's placed there. And you want to make sure that you can get it enough rage regen built to come round to make sure that you can trigger that off every single time. It can only take one big heal from the boss with all those ads to really doing your work and put you back to square one before you know what's happening. So this is the last, what we're on, 5-6% of the boss now, and that's pretty much the boss dead. Everything's on auto now, so we're not really worried about it, and that will be it done. Now this is actually my first clear through on 20. I'll see what I can tweak and see if I can get 21 done. When I get 21 done, we'll do a video on how to actually clear the whole thing. It was a bit scrappy for me, but I was just mostly trying to make sure, and it helped me out massively, that the boss couldn't heal everyone. And that was fundamentally the plan behind the run. So that was pod off, and my first, well, didn't even have a chance to come on because that was my first run through it ever. So that's that now done. I can now try 21, and I'll, as soon as I can get it done, I'll release a video on that and how I get it done and the gear I've got. Let's have a look at Lasseer. So this is Lasseer, and this is the gear I put on him. He's not built for damage, let's remember that. He is built solely to use his debuff. So on the left hand side we've got a set, but it's really there for the attack speed. And then on the chest piece we've got attack speed as well, which is what we're after. Not so much for this build, but we'll come on to that in a minute. So we do want attack speed on him. Now, we do want him tanky, so he's got an HP percent on him and he's got rage regen. So that's realistically what that piece is doing on him, nothing more than that. The second piece is attack speed and rage regen, because we want that rage regen coming around for him. And the attack speed does help by his rage regen. His rage regen happens when he attacks. So he's got rage regen again on his bottom piece. So he's not very attacky at all. Now, rage regen auto, that's happening all the time. Rage regen, the one above it, is happening when you attack or are attacked or doing spells, that sort of stuff. So there's the difference between them. Artifact wise, I did this artifact and the run worked, but it wasn't the best artifact, to be honest. I had much more luck with the nightmare piece, giving restoring 7.5% rage for every 5 attacks. Again, that attack speed coming in really handy using the legendary artifact instead of the mythic one. So if I went around it again, I would swap those over, because he's a lot better off at getting his ultimate off with the legendary piece rather than the mythic piece. His abilities don't overly matter. I've got mine fully booked out because I do like the champions and I have the pieces to do it, but we're after his ultimate. Now his ultimate is the one we want done. You don't have to have any of the others done, but you do want at least 2 into that ultimate. That anti-healing duration plus 5 seconds for him to do anti-healing is absolutely brilliant. Also, if you can get down to the level 5 and have the cost reduced by 100, that's going to help you out as well. But that 5 plus 5 second duration, that's going to be massive for you. So make sure if you're using him, you've got that done. If you're using a different anti-healer, check your duration against how long you actually want it for, because it gives you much more leeway between when you can start it. So as you can see, he's ended up with 113% rage regen and he's got an extra 311 attack speed. Okay, that's it for the video today. I hope you found it helpful. I hope if you're using an anti-healer or you've got one and you're not really too sure what to do with them, this has helped out. If you could now help me out, give me a thumbs up, like and subscribe. That would be great, and I'll see you all in a video again soon. Cheers for your time. Happy gaming.